Sitaram viewers, and welcome to another edition of the Hindu Perspective, a program prepared and hosted by the Dharmandala Swaha for the purpose of bringing enlightenment to the national community about the various tenets of Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma, in particular, or particularly in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, once again, we have our panelist, Pandit Gyandev Prasad, senior member of the Dharmandala Swaha, and of course, the spiritual leader of the Swaha Sukshanti Bhakti Mandali, as well as we have Pandit Ishwar Madhu Maharaj, who is the president of Swaha, as well as the principal of the Swaha Hindu College. And today joining us, we have another member of the Dharmandala of Swaha, Pandit Umarat Maharaj, who is the spiritual leader of the Swaha Bhakti Jyot Mandali of Arang West. And Panditji, thank you for joining us today to our program. As is customary, we pass over to Pandit Ishwar, who would lead us in opening prayer.
Hi, Sitam viewers, as we all join together, as we bow our heads, we focus upon Gajanan Swami, and today also we focus upon Prabhu Shri Ram and Sita Mata as we begin. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada Om Aparam Paharataram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Sri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham Om Ganganapate Namaha Om Shri Sita Ramachandraya Namaha. बोले श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय, स्वाहा माता की जय, सियापति रामचंद्र की जय.
Thank you very much, Panditji. And as we begin our program, let me just remind you, and today we have included the number if you look on the screen. And what we are asking is that if during the program, or then subsequent to the program, you may have any comments or questions or suggestions for topics, you can always WhatsApp 470-8103. Of course, during the program, we will not be taking any calls. Subsequent to the program, if you feel that you may want to call, you can do so. But what you're asking, that what makes it easier for us is that you WhatsApp the information. If there's a question, there's a comment, you just WhatsApp 470-8103. And of course, we will address whatever issue you may raise or whatever question you may have on the topic that you feel is of interest to you. Now, today's program, we are going to start discussing something from last week's program, and then we're going to jump into a new topic. And the first thing that we're going to discuss, which is an event that would have passed, is Parshuram Jayanti. And we just want to take a short time to discuss that. From this, we'll share, some idea on Parshuram, that avatar of Sri Vishnu Bhagwan, that many may not know. So maybe the most, salient points on Parshuram, and how that is relevant and important to us. And then after, we are going to dedicate the remainder of the program to Sita Jayanti. And of course, we'll end by passing over to the president, who will let us know, anything else that may be important for us to note as it relates to Swaha and, the activities of the organization moving forward. So that we normally start with our senior Pandit Gyandev, and I think that we'll continue doing that. We'll move on to Pandit Umarat and then Pandit Ishwar. And we can share a perspective on Parshuram Jayanti, anything that you like to share, symbolism, meaning, and anything that you feel may be applicable to us, and any lessons that you're going to get coming out of that particular occasion. So, Pandit Gyandev.
Thank you, Pandit Jagat Maharaj. There are three Rams: Dhanujdhari Ram, Balram, and Parshuram. Each one is recognized because of what they possess. The Dhanujdhari Ram is the one with the bow. He is Sri Ram, as you know him. Parshuram is the Ram with the axe. Balram is the brother of Krishna Bhagavan. He's the one with the strength. But the underlying factor in all these three is that each one is an avatar of God. So Parshuram, Balram, and Dhanujdhari Ram all are avatar of Vishnu Bhagavan. Now, it may sound difficult to understand, but it's simple. God can take millions of forms at the same time. Nobody can tell him how many forms to take or not to take. The role of Parshuram in Ramayana, that'll come in eventually. But just to mention, Parsuram learned under Bhagwan Shankar. And Bhagwan Shankar gave him that axe. And this is the reason why when Sri Ram broke the bow of Bhagwan Shankar, Parsuram arrived there, angered that who has broken my Guru's bow. So that's in the Ramayana. Parsuram, another thing again, if I pass on to Pandit Umarat, is that he called it Chiranjeev. Chiranjeev means he lives onwards. According to our scriptures, in Treta Yuga, he came. And he remained until the end of Kali Yuga. And according to the Bhavashya Puran and the Kalki Puran, when Kalki comes, he will be the Guru of Kalki, the martial Guru as such. He will teach him the arts of fighting, warfare, etc., to destroy evil forces. So that will be his final role in this avatar, by teaching Kalki Bhagwan when he comes. So Parshuram will be Kalki's Guru, while Parshuram Guru is Bhagwan Shankar. So I'll pass on to Pandit Umarat.
Sitaram. So as Panditji mentioned that Parashuram is Ram with the axe and the sixth avatar of Lord Vishnu himself. And he made a very, very important point that the main event of Parashuram that you know it in this age of Kali Yuga is where he appeared when Sri Ram broke that bow. And appearing there was an indication of the end of Sri Ram's avatar, Parashuram avatar, and the beginning of Sri Ram avatar. And it's also mentioned that, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that he also belonged to the Kshatriya and the Brahman race from both sides of parents, mother and father. And it's indicated that that duel between Lakshman and Parashuram, where he said that he destroyed the Kshatriya race 21 times. So he was that one who manifested himself, in my opinion, from what they've indicated in scriptures, to subdue the evil kings, etc., that at that point in time, who wanted to take over that kingdom of Janak, because as we know, many were there who wanted to marry Sita Mata to become her consort. And that is, he manifested himself to subdue all those kings and to correct all that is wrong at that point in time. So that's my opening statement in regards to Parashuram.
Panditji, sure.
Right. So Sitaram and viewers, of course, Parshuram, Sri Ram with the axe, the Parashu, and we have heard from Panagyandu, Pandit Umadat, a little bit on Parshuram. And one point, while I agree with Pandit Umadat and Panagyandu totally, it's important to note, while the main activities of his avatar as such would have, in many respects, ended upon that communion and meeting then with Sri Ram, Bhagwan Sri Ram. Certainly, he still had other duties that continued, because I know even in Mahabharata he's mentioned as one of those who advised and would have given counsel and certainly assisted some of the Pandavas as well. So there's reference in Mahabharata, and as Panditji mentioned, Kalki Avatar also, Parshuram as Chiranjeevi will still have some impact, some role. But very importantly, when we think of Parshuram, there's one thing, is a fierce form of Lord Vishnu that comes to mind. Fiery eyes, matted locks. He has the appearance of a sage, a saint, and a warrior in one, which is something that may seem really strange. It may seem to contradict each other. And we're not going to go into too much of the detail of the life and background of Parshuram. That perhaps may be an entire program on its own. But one thing that's important, we would have seen conflict. You would have seen anger being displayed by Parshuram. Yes, when the bow was broken, there was a conflict with Lakshman in particular that is well, documented in Tulsi, Sri Ramcharitmanas, various forms of the Ramayana also. But Parshuram, extremely angry, engaging in conflict with others, those around. It is said even the kings that were around, the other holy ones, Raja Janak, and even the gurus, that saints and sages that were there, they were quivering, shaking in fear, knowing that Parshuram could do anything at that moment. But you know what? Sri Ram came, spoke to him, kind, soft terms, but not just, rolling over and allowing Parshuram to dictate things, but showing him the right path. And I just want to advise all devotees, all viewers, if you look at that part of Balkand and look at the conversation between Sri Ram and Parshuram, it is a perfect, how to put it, solution for conflicts and difficulties that we face at times. Anger management, conflict resolution. There are some points, wonderful points, salient points that we could take from that meeting between Sri Ram and Parshuram. So we all get vexed, we all get angry from time to time. And Parshuram had a particular reason, as was mentioned. The bow of his guru, Bhagwan Shankar's bow was broken. It angered him. And initially looking at Lakshman and Sri Ram also as those same Kshatriyas, like the crooked Kshatriyas that he came upon this earth to destroy, until he realized Sri Ram is no mere Kshatriya, is divine himself, just like Parshuram. And so devotees, the Katha would have given us in detail how it brought about a change. And Parshuram eventually went to the Himalayan regions, Mahindra Parvat, to engage in his devotion, his worship. So I look at it this way. Man, anger, is always a part. Clothes is there in our mind, is hard to subdue. But try as we might, we need to subdue it at times. We can't let it prevail and let it dictate our lives and let it predominate in our minds and in our actions. So there's a beautiful episode I'm reminding you of, Sri Ram, pacifying Parshuram. Conflict resolution is important for all of us to learn. Right, Panajaidat?
Yes, Panditji, and I think that's an excellent point because as much as we look at the katha and that aspect of it, the program really is about looking at how we can address some of these social issues that we see. And last week we spoke about crime, and part of that is violence. And crime has different reasons. Sometimes it is out of this anger, as Panditishwar is mentioning, and this violent tendency, and we are seeing more and more of that. Persons are becoming angry, family members, neighbors, etc., and it escalates into something that leads to death. And in the Katha, Panditji mentioned the relationship between, or the conversation or interaction between Sri Ram and Parshuram, but there was also someone else in that engagement who was Lakshman. And when Lakshman was engaging with Parshuram, he was antagonistic, and that didn't make the situation any better. And just to add to what Panditishwar is saying, that in situations where someone may be angry by nature, then someone else, feeding that fire doesn't lead to a positive outcome. So in any relationship, it really requires that one person, be like the water to try to soothe that fire. And the attitude and the mentality and the characteristic of Sri Ram is like that, where he would try to pacify, he would try to cool down, and so, make peace amongst different groups. And, in this case, that's a perfect lesson. And as Panditishwar is saying that, the lesson of Sri Ram is a lesson that every single one of us can emulate in terms of the way that we live our life to prevent some of these social ills that we observe taking place in our society. Just as a point of interest also, Parshuram, he was the guru of Bhishma, he was the guru of Drona and Karan also, who were powerful warriors in the Mahabharata, so that we could read up on those and we can speak about those also. But these were great warriors that are well known. And Parshuram was such a great warrior that he was the guru of these individuals. Now, one or two points, the pundits touch on, and again, socially related, and I like to bring them up. And maybe again, a lot of these things may be opinionated. You'll give your view, and we want our viewers to understand that a lot of times, we give our opinion, and you may have your view also, and you can share that. And Pandit Omadat mentioned that, Parshuram was from two different castes. Now, mother and father, one Brahmin and one Kshatriya, but either way, if he was born in Brahman, he acted the role of Kshatriya. And in Bhagavad Gita, there's a chapter, the verse about the mixing of castes and how that may corrupt a society. But while that is stated in Bhagavad Gita, we are seeing here an example where we have a person born in a particular caste but performing the duty of another caste. Now, how does that fit? I mean, how does that align with what scriptures say, number one? And secondly, how does that impact upon the performance of duties and ensuring that if we are born within a certain caste, that we do not lose sight of our duties and responsibilities as we move forward to ensure that there's propagation of our dharma and our way of life. So I feel that, I like to ask Pandit Gyandev because he may have some reference that he can share with us. If he can start off answering, and then the other Pandits can, give their views.
Very interesting, Pandit. Simply put, according to scriptures, there is Lom and Vilom and Pratilom. It means that someone, a man who is a Brahman, can marry someone below his caste. His wife, Renuka, was a Kshatri. And the history of that incident says clearly that he was a Brahman, but he had tendencies of Kshatri because his mother was a Kshatri. And this is where things come into we have to understand how to tell married couples, people are getting married, that the person you're married into, whosoever you're going to marry to, will have an influence on your child in the future. So you have to make sure that person is not just hermit, religious, kind-hearted, and all the good things. You have to make sure that that person can bear a child, which there will not be negative influences. So this is the reality of biology, because XY chromosomes and genes and so on, inheritance. But it comes into Hinduism, and it tells us each one of us have to get married into that situation where we can fulfill our life's role or purpose. Parashuram father, Jamdagni, was a sage, a rishi, and he married Renuka, who was a Kshatri. So he fulfilled his role as a Brahman. Now, nowhere you'll find Parashuram referred to as a Kshatri, nowhere. He was a Brahman who performed the duties of a Kshatri. That does make him a Kshatri. Similarly, if a Sudra performs duties of Brahman, that does make him a Brahman. It's common sense. These things in scriptures plain for us to see. So you can be one because we have different gunas, Sit, Rajavantam, and each one may rule someone at a different time. But basically who we are, that's always there. And Vishwamitra like that was like that also. You have many sages like that, where you find some of them try to be something else which they are not. But it can never be. Vishwamitra is called what? Brahma Rishi. He was never called a Brahman because he wasn't born a Brahman. Birth is something you can't change. Your genes. And this is something which in society today, start to say, people recognize it. Krishna Bhagavan in Gita says that I, Chatur Varyam Maya Srishtam, Karam Gunakaram Bighaksha. I made the forecast. None is high, none is low. Each one is different. But some people feel if Brahman is high, the Kshatriya is low. It's just different. So the different duties they have. So I'll pass on over that. The Kshatri has a duty, and if a Brahman does a Kshatri's duty, it does not mean he's a Kshatri. And we can ask ourselves today in Trinidad and Tobago, who is the Prime Minister? What caste is he? How we assess that according to scriptures? Look at America, Biden, what caste is he? Do we put him in a caste system or a duty system? They're doing their duty. They're not in the caste system as far as Hinduism is concerned. They're a different topic altogether. So you have to be born a certain caste to be that. And no matter what duty you perform, you remain in that caste, performing that duty. So when you finish that duty, you still belong to the Brahman caste. And Parashuram is, and always be a Brahman. This is why he's the guru and will be the guru of that avatar to come, Kalki avatar. Panto Maharaj.
Yes, Panditji, and the Itihas is there where you saw that Parashuram demonstrated the two qualities as you mentioned, right? And that incident where Jamadagni with Renuka, when he asked his two sons to behead his mother. Now we're not telling anybody to do that, just how the Itihas is. And in my opinion, that brings out the two qualities of Parashuram, Brahman, and Kshatri. Right? So whatever we say here is just based on itihas, and it's not unrealistic what people have to do. It's just, to project the point of the quality of Parashuram, in my opinion. That when his mother made whatever mistake she made, and the two sons were asked, to behead her, and they refused, and he turned them into stone. And then he asked Parashuram that, to perform such action, to behead his mother, and without thinking twice, he did it because he knew the power of his father. So that Kshatri aspect of the warrior came out there. But then afterwards, what was the request made of Parashuram to his father? The compassionate aspect of it, the sattvic part of it. He said, "Oh, father, that whatever my mother has done, forgive her, bring her back to life, and restore my two brothers." So here, in my opinion, what I think is that we see the two sides of Parashuram there, where he displayed that Kshatriya aspect, and then the aspect of Brahman, of compassion, of peace, etc. And even when from that point of the breaking of the bow, when Lakshman antagonized him, and Parashuram, Ram with the axe, as Panagyananda mentioned, again the two Swabhav is there, Kshatri and Brahman. And afterwards, what happened? Sri Ram represents spirituality, and the axe, Parashu, represents that act of discernment, where you cut asunder all negativities, all lower tendencies. So here we see that after he completed that act, when that bow was broken, and he was asked to ask a boon, what he wanted, right? And when he recognized that Sri Ram is that divine, then his avatar came to an end there. But what I'm trying to say is that in those two incidents, we saw where he displayed the Kshatri and the Brahman aspect.
So thank you, Pandit Umarat, and I think that that's an excellent point. And it ties in with what Pandit Gyani was saying, and he pointed about, yes, there's a mixing of the caste, but that doesn't really mean there's a negative outcome. At the end of the day, what matters the most is that regardless of individuals who may get together, the father carries the lineage, obviously, but the outcome of that relationship has to be the continuation of dharma and the performance of the duties that are necessary. So, Pandit Ishwar, we would like to hear your contribution on this point.
Yeah, no, this is certainly interesting because it parallels what takes place now. So I agree with Pandit Gyandev, Pandit Umadat, and interestingly, you would have seen where Pandit Umadat put it beautifully, describing a little bit of philosophy and significance of the axe itself and that katha taken from Ramayana. Now we see Parshuram, after all the generations of Kshatriyas and so on that he would have destroyed, having come upon earth to do a particular duty, just as you hear yada yada hi dharmasya, or from Mahabharata and Ramayana, Bipradhenu Surasanta Hitlina Manujavatar. Parshuram came for that same reason too, to protect the holy ones, the Brahmanas, the holy ones, devotees, to protect the lower forms of creation. Remember in the Kathato, there's a calf, that divine Kamdhenu that he went to rescue. So he came to rescue and protect the holy ones, the lower forms. And if in needing to do that, having that responsibility, it required him to engage, to take up arms, the Parashu, given by Lord Shiva. So he came for that purpose, and to fulfill his purpose, he had to assume the duties and responsibilities of a Kshatriya. But at the same time, you can't get carried away, because he is Brahmin by birth. His very nature also one of a Brahman, and so reminded of it and come into contact with the Lord himself, Sri Ram, we would have seen a change where all the anger subsided, as I said before, and then from existing in a mode where even though he was born a Brahman, acting primarily as a Kshatriya, we saw a reversal where he retired to Mahindra Parvat, I believe the correct place where he would have gone, and continue his worship. But when I said continue his life and yes, his worship, but he's a one form of Bhagwan Vishnu that I could recall, where you will see that this one form of the Lord does not, he's Chiranjeevi, as we would have said. He continues life. So all the other forms you would have seen, they would have come and they would have left Mrityulok. They would have left this mortal existence, so to speak, and gone back. Whether we say to Vaikunth Dham, or whatever, Sri Ram Dham, however we term it. But he continues. And in our minds, I'm saying, for us, especially today, people are different. So I'm a pundit, Brahmin by birth, but then I am a teacher also, right? So I'm still carrying along that duty. But at times, you may be required to do something else. Who knows? I hope I don't have to fight. But if we have to fight, and there's some reason for all the men in a nation to have to fight, then by force people become warriors. They become Kshatriyas. So it is something, now that may seem nonsensical, but this is something that happened in not so distant past, where people had to take up arms because they were mandated to do so. The point, and that doesn't change who you are. The fact is, you do what you have to do, duty. Duty is God. Duty. Performance of your duty, most important. So it's interesting, and I'm saying for each and every individual, sometimes it's not a blending or mixing of castes, but our duties and our obligations may be different, and we have to understand that.
That's just one thing again. There's an important point you made here, that duty is based on situation, because all of us, at some point in time, will have to be aggressive, Kshatriya quality, then sometimes very passive. So it's not only something that is abstract to scripture, but even in our own life too as individuals. With the days we are living in now, Brahman, you have to become like a Kshatriya also. Somebody come into a yard, you have to be able to fight to protect yourself, protect your family. Then there are times when it'll be, subdued, peaceful. So that's an important point you made. Based on the quality, as Panagan mentioned, the guna that is required at that point in time, you act as so. So even our own personal lives, Parashram is present there in terms of the qualities that needs to be applied at this whatever particular point in time.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that it comes down also to the action versus the individual. So if I perform the action of a Kshatriya, that doesn't make me a Kshatriya. If I perform the action of a Vaishya, that doesn't make me a Vaishya. That is just something I do versus who I am. And if my sociology is not failing me, there's the difference between caste and class. And in class, there's mobility. So in a class system, you can move up, and you can move from a lower class to a higher class, and that is called in sociology an open system. And in the study of society, there's also what you call caste, and a caste system is a closed system. So that if you are born in a caste within this lifetime, that cannot change, and that is recognized in the study of society. When you look at the study of different societies, etc., we don't just look at Western society in the study of sociology. We look at all societies. And, caste and class is not the same. If a person wants to move up, advance socially, you can do that by education, gaining wealth, all of that, status, networking. But it doesn't matter what you do in terms of your spiritual life. If you are born in a certain caste, that is a closed system. And because we believe in karma and reincarnation, then if your actions in this life puts you in the different caste, and as Panagyanyu said, right, there's no high and lower, just different. But your action will put you into the caste of a Brahman or the caste of a Sudra, whatever it may be, that your actions and your karma is going to put you there. And karma is what matters the most. But it's for us to understand that ultimately, wherever we are born in this life, it is because of our actions in our past lives. And that we remain in that caste in this life. We perform the actions that we believe are necessary. And by doing the right actions, then there's spiritual advancement within the caste in which we are born. So I think that, we need to understand those things. We see that it is different in society. But as we mentioned, in Swaha, we believe in certain things. That we believe that, Brahmins are Brahmins, that, we are the ones who are supposed to perform Purahit Karam. That is not the responsibility, the duty of anyone. If someone does a puja, that doesn't make them a Brahman. And we had this discussion already last week. We touched on it, but it is coming out a little more in this discussion today. So I think that we are having some wonderful discussions on these topics. So there was another point that came out, and I'd like to touch on it briefly before, and it got tied into the Sita Jayanti. And of course, as we move along, if anyone wants to, any of the pundits would like to revisit any of the points that we discussed, because as we talk, ideas come up. Then please let just jump in, and you can make a contribution. And this is the whole concept of avatar. Now we have spoken about Parshuram, Sriram, Balaram, Panagyana mentioned, these are three different avatars. We have avatars that are here simultaneously. And Panadishwar mentioned the idea of, the purpose of avatar is really divine intervention. That you have divinity coming upon earth for the purpose of alleviating the pain of the cows and the holy ones, mankind, etc., reestablishing that which is right. Now, what this has led to is a misunderstanding of Hinduism and Dharma, where many see this as a polytheistic religion, meaning that, it's theistic, we believe in a God, but it's polytheistic, meaning that there are many gods. When in fact, we, as Hindus, or as spiritual leaders, we always say it's monotheistic. There's only one God. However, persons who do not understand may get the impression differently. So I feel that, before we jump into the topic of Sita Jayanti, and this may be a good springboard, we can start talking about that issue of avatar and Hinduism being monotheistic versus polytheistic. And maybe Panditeshwar, you can start our discussions with this point.
All right. So, Panditji, interesting point and one that we get all the time. Ek Brahm Dvitiya Nasti. This is what we are told. There's one supreme, one Paramatma, no second. Now we are saying this, and then or the pundits say this, Swaha says this, but then are we contradicting ourselves as Panditji is putting forward with all the different forms? You hit 10 crore, which is across 10 million, so 10 crore, 330 million different forms. And I'm saying it's not 10 crore, could even be 10 crore times 2 or times 3. The point is that we cannot limit that Lord. We cannot limit him. There's a mantra that we all chant when we do our Purnahuti. Om Purnamida Purnamidam Purnat Purnadachate. That mantra is saying, that is whole, this is whole. That which is taken out of the whole still remains whole. You could divide that whole part. So if you want to think of it as a one massive cake, and you're cutting into 1,000 parts, each 1,000th part is still as powerful and still as significant and infinite in nature as each of the other parts, 999 other parts, and each one could be it can be divided infinitely. So the point is, we cannot to say that having three forms of the Lord as the Trinity, we are not the only religion. We are not the only way of life then that speaks about Trinity, right? All the different devatas that we believe in, Navgraha Devata and all the others. I'm saying each and every one comes to perform a particular duty or role, characteristic. Even if we look at our body, in our bodies, each and every aspect of our body is governed and controlled, and a form of divine is represented there. But it doesn't change us. At the end of the day, I'm saying is that one supreme Lord, infinite in nature. We cannot limit that Lord, but just grasping that concept, I know is difficult for many people, because they will wonder, well, if it's one form, one Lord who is infinite in nature, why does he need all these different forms? But this is how it has been put across to us from time immemorial. All our saints and sages from thousands of years ago have put it down, laid down these concepts to us in a way that we can better understand. So if we want to know about that form that gives us wealth, there's Lakshmi Mata. That one that protects us when we face difficulty, Hanumanji, Bajrang Bali, but all aspects of that same one true supreme Paramatma.
Okay, thank you, Pandit. And Pandit Umarat, would you like to contribute on this?
Yes, well, one, we speak of the avatar, the different aspects of divinity and the forms. One Chaupai comes to mind from Ramayana. Siya Rama mai sab jagajani karu pranam juri jogapani. That Tulsidas told us that you see the presence of divinity in each and every aspect of creation, each and every atom of creation. So whenever non-Hindus ask this question, the simple answer is that there's not the God of fire, or the God of water, or the God of wind. Is the Lord present each and every atom of creation. So there's a difference between the God of and Lord that is present in. So when we say, as Pandeshan mentioned, 33 crore devata, it's not 33 million different forms of divinity, but 33, well, which is the closest form to infinity, basically what they say. 33 million is closer to zero. So when I say 33 million, it's a way of expressing infinity, because they cannot express an infinity, that the Lord is present in each and every atom of creation. This is why, as Hindus, when you offer to the sun, it's not the sun God, but Lord present within the sun. When you say Varun, it's not the God of water, but Lord present within water. So I think that this is a simple way to explain to non-Hindus of what our perspective is. And not only that too, if you look at yourself, I've learned this from the Parmacharya, that you have one person, Yapanet Ishwar, or myself, Apanet, any one of us. Same one person, your father, the same one person, your friend, the same one person, your worker in society, the same one person is an enemy, the same one person is a teacher, is a pundit. So when you analyze, it's not different you, it's one you, but different aspects, different the duties that you have to perform. So I look at this in a simple way that, that we can explain to others that they're not different gods. But when I say avatar, in different forms of divinity. Now, whenever, as the Bhajan tells us, Ikabar Firituahu, we are allowed to come one more time. And all based on whatever circumstances that is needed at that point in time. As the Suka tells us, Yada Yadahi Dharmasya, Glanir Bhavati Bharata, Bhutanam Dharmasya, Tadatpadam Srijamyam, Parittaranaya Sadhuna Vinasha. We know this Shloka, that when the Lord, based on whatever circumstance, whatever situations exist at that point in time, that the Lord manifests himself to subdue or to rectify that particular problem. For Ravan, Sri Ram manifests. For Hiranyakasipu, Hiranyaksh, the different manifestation is there. So it's important, as Parisha mentioned, not different gods, but the Lord present in all the different aspects of nature creation as we know it to be.
That's a good point. I just want to comment on Panumada. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Thanks, Panit. Panit Gyanev, any contributions on this?
He started the program by saying there are 3 Rams, 3 incarnations. They're given a God can come in any form he wants. And there's a saying in Manusmriti, Murkhasya Aushadhya na asti. Murkhasya Aushadhya na asti. There is no cure for stupidity. So when stupid people want to criticize Hinduism for having many gods, you don't argue with them, because they have no salvation, no hope. But for the Hindus who want to know, we take it from the point that God is omnipresent, all-powerful, he can do anything. And anybody who can tell me, who can tell God, you can't come in a form, then you're greater than God. Anybody who can tell God, you can't come in 1 million forms, then you're greater than God, because you tell God what to do. And that kind of foolish people we have. So from my perspective, I ignore these kind of people who want to criticize and condemn how many gods Hindus have. And I want to just go back to one thing about Parsuram. And this is, the history has been hidden. And hopefully India will continue unraveling the history of India. We know Kung Fu, we know Karate. You know Kalari? Kalari is what Parsuram started. And when the Buddhist monk took to China, and they started Kung Fu and Karate and so on. And nobody knows this, it's in the scriptures. This is Parsuram, we call form of fighting. Kalari is more popular in South India. South India seems to be more spiritual. And that was Parsuram's contribution in the field of warfare. So he did all Kalari, Ramada, they are long name, but Kalari is shortened form. If you can check it, you'll see. These fellas actually fly, like they're flying in the air with sword. Sword that actually, like a rope, or like a belt with a shield and so on. And India is start back to have confident competitions and that. So that was Parshuram, one of Parshuram's great contribution, Kalari.
Yep.
And to come back to the point about incarnation, as I said, I will take it from a scientific point of view. We have respect for our viewers and those who may not be Hindus who are watching the program. There's a telescope by a fellow called James Webb. If you investigate that, check it and see on the internet, James Webb made a telescope where you can see out into the space. Right? I know how many solar systems, not planets, you know how many solar systems he saw? Countless. Countless doesn't mean a million, you know. Countless doesn't mean 2 million, you know. Countless. The solar systems which he is seeing, as far as the telescope can see, they are solar systems. I go back to Devi Bhagwat. Devi Bhagwat says that there are millions of Shivas. There are millions of Brahma. There are millions, if not trillions, of Vishnu Bhagavan. Each one for each solar system. And that goes back to the story of Bhagavan Shankar. When, not Bhagavan, Hanuman Swami, when he was flying over, and he heard Bhagavan Shankar telling Parvati Mata, in that war, Hanuman was struck down. And Hanuman said, but that never happened. Bhagavan Shankar doesn't lie, and I was never struck down. So he went to ask Sri Ram. I'll cut the story short. This is history. And what he did, when he reached Sri Ram, flicked his ring into the Saryu River. Said, Hanuman, get me that ring. That same ring he took for Sita Mata. Hanuman went, so he knew the ring. He went down. When he went down the river, what he saw? A sage in a cave with millions of rings. I told him, you see how many rings there are there? Go see which is Sri Ram one. Hanuman, first mission he failed. First mission. He went back. Prabhu, I couldn't find which is your ring. Then Sri Ram told him, exactly. You see what Bhagavan Shankar was telling Parvati Ma? That when he got struck down in the war, that we just concluded, is not in this planet, not in this solar system, not in this time. But it happened in some other solar system, some other planet. But it happened. You got struck down in that war when I was fighting Ravan. These are the greats of Hinduism. And James Webb, he made a telescope. These things all Hindus must look at and see, investigate. And millions of solar systems there. So when man will tell me, yeah, here's heaven and this is earth, this is hell, they have to be stupid. And I make no apology for saying that. You contradicting our scriptures. Earth is heaven and hell. There's heaven and hell. There are millions of planets. There are Rau, Maha Rau. There are all kind of things. And this is science. So when our people want to fall victim to the other kind of people, yeah, everybody have one God, we must have one God too. Eka Brahm Dvitiya Nasti. Eka Brahm, as Parishwar said. There's one divinity, but many forms. So let us not misinterpret what's going on. So there are many Brahmas, no two about it, many Sri Rams, many Vishnu, many Shiva, because this is what Devi Bhagwat has, and what they played out in our scriptures. So people who are Hindus, they are confused. They are confused. According to one fellow say, Hindus are not that poor to have one God. That is a joke. Hindus have many gods. And many gods because and 33 crore Devata, 33 crore, 84 lakh Yoni, all these terms are there as far as you can understand, but it's beyond that. And those who want to read the Gita when they describe the form of Vishnu Bhagavan, Krishna Bhagavan. When Arjuna said, oh Lord, what is this? I can't see pain, I can't see the end. I'm seeing myself inside here also. I'm seeing you inside here also. I'm seeing so many things. And Gita explains this very same thing, how vast this, not earth, not solar system, this universe is. Bhagavan permeates every area of this solar system. So there are many forms of gods. And shallow thinking people who can't hold anything in their brain, they have to get them one thing. I learn one and one make two. Don't learn nothing else, you'll get confused. Some people like that. Hindus not like that. Another V.S. Naipaul said that. You know what he liked about Hinduism? The intellectual content. So intellectual people are in Hinduism. People who brain shallow and who brain weak, oh God, boy, I can't take that time, I'm going to go somewhere else. And take a little something and sit quiet. Like a country Shankatar, like a crapo in a well. To be a crapo in a well, being in a vast ocean, depth of the ocean, and imbibe of all the information there is. So there are many forms. And Parshuram, Kalari, Jairat, we can discuss that one of these days. And get the history and tell people. And we have to learn Kalari in Trinidad. If we have to tell the Indian embassy, send down some for history here, we will learn it. That's our tradition. That's Parshuram to do.
I wanted to say we actually had a troop came down. Now I can't recall the name of the troop. The Indian High Commission and Mahatma Gandhi Institute would have brought down this group a couple of years ago, and they performed at Swindu College in our auditorium, and it was wonderful to see because just as Pandit Gyandeo described, you see them spin around as though they're flying with the sword, and the wonderful actions that they do. Of course, they are performers, right? As to how versed they are in terms of fighting, but it really was spectacular to see. And I don't know if any of viewers recall, because it may have been featured on IETV too. It was filmed at Swah Hindu College. So I would have witnessed it and didn't even remember and know how significant this is. So I want to thank Pandit Gyandeo for telling us. So I feel I have to do some more research, right? But over that, we talk about self-defense and protecting ourselves, to learn the art, martial arts, that I'm saying martial arts, but the art of self-defense and martial arts that Parshuram practiced, and where he learned it and who he taught it to is something, I mean, remarkable, right? So
Panjay, you as the organizer of this program, as the coordinator, your duty is to get these people ready, I must say, and tell them, you want a Kalari performances down here.
Yeah.
From Hindu perspective, you want it?
Very interesting. And Pandit, one thing you mentioned, and I think is critical. We say that there's so much contradiction in Hinduism. One scripture will talk about how Sri Ganesh got the head, the elephant head, and we'll find different versions of the same katha. And I guess it's really attributed to what Panditji is saying, that at different times, it's not the first time or the only time the incident happened. And therefore, you're going to find variety, not because there are contradiction, but because there are differences in these incidents, and they're recorded as such. Now, I only have about 10 minutes remaining. So what I'd like to do, it always happens on the program. We don't get to talk about everything we want to talk about. But let's talk about Sita Jayanti a little bit. And we have our guest Pandit today, Pandit Omarat. And Panditji, you can share with us whatever you want to share on Sita Jayanti.
Pandit, thanks. Well, as we began, we discussed Sita Jayanti, and we thought about Sita Jayanti, and I mentioned in the beginning that without Sita Mata, what is Ramayana? Same exactly without Hanuman Baba, what is Ramayana? And we all know that Sita Ma, the consort of Prabhu Shri Ram, and we have Sita and we have Sati. So that's two different aspects you're speaking about there. But the Sita Jayanti is I guess, from history will show the appearance of Sita Ma when Janak performed his yagya, etc., when there was a decline in his prosperity in the kingdom. And the katha goes way back to when Ravan wanted to collect taxes, etc. So most of the pundits and individuals will understand that. But I think the manifestation of Sita Mata is to, just like Parashuram, to subdue negativity, that she must have manifested herself, performance of all her duties, etc. And it all goes back to that bow breaking ceremony and all. It ties in with that. But I think her main, from what you understand from scriptural point of view, her main manifestation, pose of manifestation is for the destruction of the evil one Ravan, when he created havoc upon the face of his earth, and that, put the holy ones to the sword. And Sita Jayanti is the appearance of Sita Mata, so that she can be able to become married to Prabhu Shri Ram and be the cause of destruction for Ravan. Obviously, those things have philosophical intonations, but we can leave it there for now.
Yes, and I think that one of the, as Pandit mentioned, Sita is an incarnation of Lakshmi Mata, right? Or at least part incarnation. And it was at the time of low prosperity that she came, and that would have resolved the issue. And again, Panditji mentioned the symbolism. And we are always told that, if Lakshmi leaves the home, when that is said symbolically, that prosperity leaves, happiness leaves, togetherness leaves, wealth leaves. And Lakshmi Mata, Sita Ma, same form of divinity. And in that, katha, that Genesis that Panditji gave, is our lesson that in every home we want that presence of Lakshmi Mata, we want that presence of Sri Ram and Sita Devi, so that we always have prosperity in our home. So Panagik Ishwar, would you like to, contribute something to this part of it? Sita
Yeah,
Jain.
just for the benefit of our viewers too, some who may not even know about Sita Jayanti. So those who are seeing the program, when it first aired, we know it airs on a Wednesday, and then it's repeated a couple times on ITV. Thankfully, we're glad for that, as I'm sure viewers also. But Sita Jayanti actually will be on the 28th, which is this Friday coming. So Vaishak Mas, Shukla Paksh, Naumi Titi. Sri Ram is Chaitra Shukla Paksh, Naumi Titi. So the 9th lunar day in the bright fortnight, of course, of the month of Chaitra, Sri Ram came. The 9th day in the bright fortnight of the month of Vaishak is when Sita Mata would have come into being or appeared. Now, she, of course, just as was mentioned, a form of Divine Mother, but she is, Janaka Nandini. She's the daughter of Raja Janak, but she's Bhumi Putra also. She has come from Mother Earth. Remember, in that katha, which we can't go into too much detail, but Raja Janak was doing the yagya, as Panavumadat mentioned, and that was being done, of course, just as anyone would do yagya for prosperity, for blessing, for betterment in life, for upward mobility. And part of that engage, tilling the soil, plowing the land, because and we go back to drought and famine and different things that people would have faced and kingdoms would have faced in the past. And so he had, as part of that yagya, to plow the field, and there in the field itself, coming from Mother Earth, as it were, was that little baby, beautiful baby, Sita Mata. And incidentally, at the end of her avatar, at the end of her stay upon earth, married to Prabhu Sri Ram, of course, and the mother of divine mother of love and Kush, and all of us, she returned back to Bhumi Mata or Dharti Mata, back down. So that connection, while she's Lakshmi Ma, I find, sometimes we're talking about different forms. So there's Dharti, there's Prithvi here, there's Lakshmi Ma, there's Gauri Mata, Durga Mata, Sita Mata. Sita Mata is associated with, of course, Mahalakshmi. She's the consort of Bhagwan Vishnu in this particular avatar where he appears as Prabhu Sri Ram. But she's also the daughter of Dharti Ma, Bhumi Mata. So in a way, worshipping Sita Mata, this is one thing I want to tell our devotees and our women in particular, the mothers and grandmothers and daughters and sisters who are looking on, because primarily they are the ones that may have an affinity to Sita Mata. By worshipping Sita Mata is Prithvi Mata or Dharti Mata, whichever form you call her by, what name you call her by. Also, Mahalakshmi Mata and Sita Ma in the traditional sense as the consort of Sri Ram. So by just chanting a mantra, Om Shri Sita Ramachandraya Namaha. Or if you want specifically for Sita Mata, Om Shri Sita Divyaya Namaha. For Sita Mata herself, you are worshipping all of these forms or these attributes then that make up Divine Mother just by worshipping and calling the name of Mother Sita. So this Friday coming, if you so wish, of course, fast, make preparations, offer your worship, and it's as simple as sprinkling some water on a murti of Sri Ram and Sita Mata. Put your chandan if you have chandan, or sindur, I'm sure, or in our home we have some sindur. Put a little tikka for Sita Mata, or for flowers, light a diya, do your arti, and chant whatever mantras you know to Sri Ram and Sita Mata to add blessing to your life. We can hear from Panagyandev, yeah.
Panagyandev, so, we'll pass over to you for final words. We have about 3 minutes and closing prayer. Yeah.
I must say closing prayer too?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll continue this next week. I'll just say one, yeah. Sita Ram. The beginning we start with 3 Rams. This is why we say Sita Ram, identifying which Ram we're talking about, Sita Ram. And that's why we say it. And Ramayana is a very beautiful verse, says it, Gira te jale biji samakahiyata bhinna bhin. Do not remove Sita from Ram. Anybody who does that is a Ravan. Ravan did that. And modern day people who say Sita Ram again, they say something else Ram now. So they take out Sita from Ram. Them modern day Ravan. Take out Sita from Ram, you're Ravan. Do not be a Ravan. keep Sita with Ram. Gita Jalabit is just, Ramayana has it plain. So let us continue that. Even the scriptures say, don't even say Ram, say Sita Ram. They insult to Ram by saying Ram and leave out Sita. The whole Ramayana about that. We take Sita away from Ram. So I conclude today, remember, brothers and sisters, Hindus, no matter, nice for me, I can't wait. They say whatever they say, you say Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Sita Ram. Sita Ram kahiye. Right, you sure you'll know this song?
Yeah.
So we'll join in conclusion in a prayer to Sri Sita Ram. Adau Ram Tapo Vanari Gamanang Hatwa Mrigang Kanchanam Vaidehi Harnang Jatai Manang Sugriva Sambhashanam Bali Nigrahanang Samundritanang Lanka Puridahanam Vashyataravan Kumkaran Haranang Hated Hi Ramayanam. Holy Sri Sita Ramachandra ki Jai. Sita Ram.
Sita Ram.